Hey there, it's Krista Watson from Krista Quilts, and in today's video, I'm going to teach you how to stitch triangle texture. This cool free motion quilting design is a great one to practice because it allows for lots of variation and it helps you practice quilting straight-ish lines and geometric shapes. Some of you will find that you really enjoy quilting the geometric shapes, while others of you tend to prefer the more curvy designs, so I'm really trying to give you a good mix of both. You can find all sorts of designs in my book called 99 Machine Quilting Designs. Be sure to check out the description box for links to the quilt and the book and everything I talk about in this whole series. Just like all of the other designs that I'm teaching you, I'm going to sketch it out first, and then I'm going to practice on a practice sample. So grab some materials and follow along and pretty much mimic what I'm doing. Feel free to stop and rewatch these videos over and over again until you have it down. Now let's get started. This is design number 52 for my book, 99 Machine Quilting Designs. Triangle texture is one of those really cool geometric designs that can look good on modern quilts or traditional quilts. It really adds a lot of texture. So basically I'm just using the triangle shape. I start off by drawing little V shapes or little spiky shapes, and I try to turn them into triangles more or less. Just like any of the other meandering designs, I'm trying to fill in all the spaces. I can vary the size, I can vary the spacing, but it's just giving a lot of interesting texture. Now, as I draw out these designs, you're going to see every wobble and bobble because I am sketching this with black ink on a white background. In reality, I would actually use a blending thread. In a moment when I stitch it for you, I'm also going to be using a contrasting thread. So the caveat is you're going to see my mistakes, but you know what? As long as you add in the texture and you fill in all the spaces, your eye is going to notice a gap in the quilting before it would notice an error in the design. That looks really fun. Now I'm going to stitch it out, and my stitching is going to look completely different than what I just drew. So now watch me stitch the triangle texture, and I'm actually stitching at real speed. I tend to stitch really quickly, but you can totally slow down if you want to. Free motion quilting is all about a balance between how fast you're moving, how fast the machine is going, and how smoothly you are moving the quilt under the machine. Now with a small sample, of course, it's a lot easier to do this, but you can still apply these techniques to a larger quilt. You just want to focus on one area of the quilt at a time. So this is a free motion quilting design that I'm doing using a regular free motion foot with an open toe, and my feed dogs are dropped. Now on my machine, I do have a stitch regulator, but I don't use it. So this is definitely more free form, and I'm regulating the stitches depending on how fast or slow that I'm going to go. Notice that I move my hands around and I'm stitching in between my hands, basically using my hands as a hoop so that I'm only focusing on that area. When I feel like I'm starting to reach, then I'm going to stop with the needle in the down position, move my hands, and then work on another area. Usually for a free motion design like this, I start on one side of the quilt and I just meander my way all the way across. To form the actual triangle shapes, I'm basically stitching with a V shape and then crossing over to form a rough triangle. Now these triangles can be skinny, they can be big, they can be large or small, and you can quilt them as loosely or as densely as you like. It's totally fine to cross through previous lines if you need to and just fill in all the spaces. Now, occasionally you might see that I throw in another design by mistake, but you know what? If that happens, it's totally fine. Just keep on going, do the same thing a couple times throughout your quilt, and it'll look like you did it on purpose. If you do want to get some nice sharp corners, you can just briefly pause at the corners and give it a little extra stitch, and that'll kind of make it look really nice. Remember, you can stitch these any size, you can stitch the triangles in any direction, and you can cross through a previous line of stitching. The important part is you want to embrace imperfection, not overthink it, and fill it all in. Here's my finished sample, which I quilted with contrasting threads so you can clearly see the design. And that's how I quilt triangle texture, a really cool modern meander that gives a little edginess to your quilt design. So an easy way to customize your quilting is to pick 2 different contrasting motifs and stitch them in different areas of your quilt. So check out this close-up detail of a quilt that I made called Broken V. Now in this case, the geometric triangles are a really nice foil and contrast to the curvy pebbles. This is going to keep your eye moving across the quilt while really giving a lot of interest and definition. The pattern for this quilt can be found in my book, Machine Quilting with Style. Now sadly, I gave that quilt away a few years ago, so I don't have it to show behind me, but in the one behind me, I've quilted another really cool triangle texture because I really love geometrics. Now I've recently made a newer version of surplus strips from my Dazzle Dots 2 fabric. Because these fabrics are so busy and colorful, an all-over edge-to-edge design adds the perfect texture to this fun quilt. I decided to sketch out boxes from an earlier episode with the triangles I just showed you to create a new combined design I'm calling Triangle Boxes. Isn't that fun? It just goes to show how you can start mixing and matching all 99 designs to come up with something totally new like I did with this quilt. This is going to be a separate video, so be on the lookout for that one. Bye for now.